Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/ProRevenge. In today's episode, bully my friend and I while playing Minecraft? I hope it was worth my revenge. Boss demands overtime pay for zero work? Okay. You will search every third car. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Bully my friend and I while playing Minecraft? I hope it was worth my revenge. A few years ago, a friend and I decided to find a Minecraft MC server to play on together. After searching for a while and joining/leaving a handful of inadequate servers, we eventually landed on a nice one with a fairly large and active community. The server had a reset a couple weeks before we joined, so most of the server was undeveloped. As usual, we joined the game and chose a direction from the spawn to walk in order to find a suitable place to settle and set up our base. After about 20 minutes, we find a good location near enough to the rail system, but far enough away from most other players, all except Noob 1 and Noob 2. N1 and N2 were definitely younger than me. I was probably older than the general demographic at 25, while they were probably closer to 15. N1 and N2 weren't the best builders. They were the types of players who spent most of their time begging the admin for mod privileges. However, they both had the best armor in the game, full diamond, along with diamond swords and plenty of ender pearls, bow/arrows, etc. They were loaded. They must have spent a ton of time mining before I arrived, because they spent all of their time harassing me anytime I would join the server to play. They were usually logged in as it was the summer and they had nothing better to do. I would be out planning out my base build and they would run up, full armor with a diamond sword, and kill me instantly. I was always unarmed and had an inventory filled with building blocks that I meticulously collected. Fortunately, this server allowed players to protect a small portion of the land based on how long they had played the game. I was able to protect a small cube of space from N1 and N2 so I could store my items. For those of you who never played Minecraft, you drop all of your inventory when you die. Over the next week, my friend and I spent time slowly building up the base one small section at a time. If N1 or N2 saw me, they would run over and kill me, so a lot of building was done from inside, removing dirt and replacing it with stone. Now, I am a perfectionist when it comes to MC builds, so I was making sure to use the perfect materials and build the fortress exactly how I wanted. N1 and N2 slowed me down heavily, but eventually I had a towering fortress overlooking their tiny dirt hut. The whole thing was protected. They couldn't break any block or open any chest, however they could still kill me if they got inside, which happened on a few occasions. They would kill me, take all my stuff, then make fun of me after running home. I had enough. I put the finishing touches on my fortress and closed off the top. I found out at this point that they were getting inside by throwing ender pearls through my windows. Ender pearls allow you to teleport to wherever they land. Now that they could no longer get inside, they would stand at the front gate and beg to be let in. I let them in once voluntarily and I was swiftly murdered. I decided it was time to switch from build mode to revenge mode. Under the front gate, I spent hours building a dropout flooring directly in front. I wired it to a lever inside that, when pulled, would drop out the floor. This would make whoever was unlucky enough to be standing on it fall about 30 blocks. Not enough to kill someone, but enough to significantly weaken them. At the point, I wired up arrows and a lava dispenser to attack the victim upon impact. I made sure all of my work was inconspicuous and hidden, and I waited for N1 and N2 to come to my front door to harass me. Finally, the time came, and I didn't have to wait too long. N1 stood on the trap floor, unaware of the fate that awaits him. N2 was circling the fortress looking for another entrance. All the while, insults were hurled back and forth. I egged them on, dared them to try to come in, now that I knew I was ready. I felt like Kevin McAllister in Home Alone. Finally, N1 and N2 grouped up at the front door. I approached and looked at them through a small hole in the door. They gathered at the hole to look at me. We exchanged glances. I pulled the lever. Both N1 and N2 fall into the pit. I pull the second lever, triggering the arrows and lava. N1 dies. N2 logs out. Due to my preparedness, I thought ahead to put a hopper, item collector, under the killing floor to pick up any dropped items to prevent the lava from burning it up. I ran down and collected my new diamond armor set and stacks of meat and ender pearls. N1 rages about his lost gear. He falls into the trap a few more times, losing even his basic gear in the process. He begged for me to return it. After about 30 minutes, he told me to deactivate the trap so N2 could log in, then safely warp to his base, using a command that the server had installed. I agreed. However, I never deactivated the trap. Cue diabolical music as I collected my winnings. I don't play Minecraft. Never have. But I still enjoyed reading this revenge. Well written. I understood what was going on even though it was foreign to me. Also, great revenge. Got my vote. MC is really good if you want to just chill. If you find a mature server with good people, you can easily turn on some music/a podcast and build something great. Good revenge. It was meticulous, calculated, and devastating to the recipient. Not sure it fits the ideology, but you get my upvote. Thanks for taking the time to explain the MC terms and items. It helps for us old farts who aren't familiar with the game. You should give the game a try sometime. What noobs? Every Minecraft player in a major server knows you lock your ultimate equipment in a hidden contraption in your house and rig everything with explosives and ensure all your best stuff is in your hidden room and make sure you have a nice TNT pit. And how to build a TNT cannon and boss demands overtime pay for zero work? Okay. So, this happened a while back, but the memory still brings a smirk to my face whenever I think about it. I used to work for a company where the boss had this habit of demanding that we stay late, even when there was absolutely no work left to be done. It was one of those toxic environments where productivity was measured by the hours you spent at your desk rather than the actual output of your work. One day, after wrapping up all my tasks well before the end of the day, my boss came over and told me that I needed to stay late because that's just how things are done around here. Mind you, there was literally nothing left for me to do. Now, instead of arguing or trying to reason with him, I decided to play along with his ridiculous demand for overtime pay. I nodded, grabbed a book I had been meaning to read, and settled back into my chair. For the next 2 hours, I sat at my desk, flipping through pages, occasionally pretending to jot down notes, and looking as busy as possible. At the end of those 2 hours, my boss came by to check on me, expecting to see me toiling away at some imaginary task. Instead, he found me reading a novel. He looked puzzled and asked, "What are you doing?" With a straight face, I replied, "Well, you asked me to stay late, so I figured I might as well put in some overtime. This book has been on my reading list for a while." Needless to say, my boss was speechless. He couldn't really argue with me since he had asked me to stay late, and I was technically still on the clock. From that day forward, he never asked me to stay late unless there was actual work to be done. Malicious compliance at its finest. I had a contracting gig with a large financial services company. My little group was part of a much bigger department that generated the annual tax forms. They were incredibly busy from January 2nd through April. The guy who ran the department issued an edict that everyone had to put in 10 hours each day and work Saturdays if necessary. Our little group had nothing to do with the tax statements, but people complained when we were seen leaving at 5 p.m. So we were told to stay late as well. I asked if that applied to me and the other contractors and was told, everyone. No exceptions. We were happy to do so since we were being paid by the hour. When we submitted our invoice for January, he almost wet his pants and decided that the OT rule didn't apply to us. They obviously didn't think that one through. Nice one. I miss working for the military. My job was to test software. I knew it was broken, but the logs were empty. So many a night I spent reading a book and just waiting for it to crash with the hope of I'd catch it in the act. I never did figure the thing out, but I got a lot of reading in. I once spent a couple of hours on overtime with a radio operator watching Raiders of the Lost Ark waiting for an intermittent radio fault. Good times. I've done something similar as well. I had no work, as I was scheduled for a project that was about to start, but kept getting postponed. So until the project started, I had nothing. When asking for work, I didn't get any, so I just started reading a book. Then my boss came. "We get complaints that you're reading a book during work hours." And I was like, Yes, those complaints. That was my goal. Boss looked confused and I said, I wanted to show the entire department that I'm out of work. Which I've told you for a few days already. If that's a problem, give me work to do. Because I dislike sitting here for nothing just as much as you do. 2 hours later, and he got some small tasks for me, which I completed way too quickly, but at least that was something. My job requires me to go different sites at times. This results in me coming into office after lunch or leaving at lunch. My boss knows this. One day HR tells me that people are not happy seeing me leave early or arrive late. I let them know I will fix it. Ever since then, if I had a site to go to, I will not go to office for the day. During Y2K, our support team was told to do overnight on New Year's and planned to be on 16-hour shifts for a week. Food was provided. There was a hotel nearby to crash. The company had spent 2 years preparing everything for the 4-digit year. We sat there collecting our overtime, eating Chinese food and subs and whatnot for 3 days. We got 4 actual tickets between the 12 of us. A guy I knew worked IT for the banking sector on night shifts. His job basically was to wait if something happened and then fix the issue. But the system were fairly robust and didn't have anything that required his attention more than once or twice a week. The rest of the time he spent playing Quake World, Happy Times. He got fairly good at Quake. You will search every third car. So I worked security for a major military contractor at one point. Our supervisor liked using our random search number as a tool for punishment for perceived grievances with us. Normally, our search number was something around 15 to 25, meaning we would only pull over and search every 15th car and every contractor truck. It was very cold and very miserable in the mornings when we would suddenly have a couple hundred employees and contractors show up between 0500 to 0800. This day, our supervisor got upset because when he came in at 0400 for his day shift, he was the 15th car, deciding that he must now ruin everyone else's day, even though we did our best to search his vehicle promptly, but completely, so he couldn't say we weren't doing the searches completely. So he set the day's shift search number to 3. So we complied. There was only enough room for 3 cars/trucks to be pulled over at once, and once that was done, we would usually stop searches until the others were completed, keeping traffic moving. Not today. This time, we filled the search area and then stopped traffic until all 3 vehicles were cleared, then allow 2 cars through, pull over the third, allow 2, pull third, allow 2, pull third, stop all traffic and start searches. We ended up with a line of cars waiting to get into the plant that went 2 miles long. It got so long the local police got involved up the road as people were blocking traffic in some intersections. Then came the phone call from a 3-star general that stuck in that said traffic a mile up the road. Suddenly, we were called to cease all searches for the morning. I later heard that it had been too little too late to cancel the ridiculous searches, and our major military contractor lost a $1 billion contract out of the deal, and that supervisor was initially going to be fired, but negotiated his way to just being busted down to a regular guard. We were union, so he started lowest on the seniority chart and got stuck working all the mandatory overtime and all the worst posts, including the one he had made miserable that morning. Edit. I should have noted that 2 weeks later, said contract was renegotiated after the company I worked for explained that the person responsible for the general's limousine being held up in traffic for almost an hour had been reassigned. No innocent jobs were lost in the making of this MC. So a major military contractor lost a $1 billion contract because of a traffic jam for one single day? The general had apparently been in traffic for almost an hour, was incredibly unhappy. I guess I should edit it to say, threatened to pull a $1 billion contract. It's not a good look to have a line of traffic waiting to get in simply because a security supervisor thought he shouldn't get searched and was above the policy. Security supervisors are the worst because of the low barrier for entry. They get cycled through pretty quick too. You go around talking to the lifers, and they all want to tell you how they used to be a supervisor at one point. So sad to say that I'm one of those lifers now. Back when I was shift supervisor at blah blah blah, I always made sure I took care of the guards I worked with. I have been so called out. LOL. What I find hilarious is that 15 is a multiple of 3, so if that protocol had been in effect when he came through, he still might have been searched. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.